The morning sun rose over New Eden, just like it had for the past 10 years. Jake Morrison stood on the balcony of his office, watching farmers head out to their fields. Children played in the streets below, while their parents opened shops and started another peaceful day. Everything looked normal in the human colony. Jake was the colony director. He had been a soldier on Earth before coming to this new world. Now he spent his days making sure people had enough food, water, and power. It was quiet work, but he liked it better than fighting wars. New Eden was home to 50,000 humans. They had built a good life on this planet far from Earth. Soil was rich for growing crops. The mines gave them metals for building. The weather was mild most of the year. People were happy here. Jake sipped his coffee and watched a group of children walk to school. Their teacher, Kelly Woods, waved at them from the classroom door. Dr. Amy Foster jogged past on her morning run to the medical center. Everything was peaceful and normal. Then the sky changed. At first, Jake thought it was just clouds moving in. But the shadow was too big and too dark. He looked up and felt his coffee cup slip from his hands. It crashed on the balcony floor, but he barely heard it. Ships hung in the sky above New Eden. Not human ships. These were long and sleek like knives. They were black with strange markings on their sides. Jake counted them quickly. 27 ships, all much bigger than anything humans had built. His desk phone rang. Jake ran inside and grabbed it. "Sir, this is Captain Lisa Hayes from Defense Control. We have a problem." "I can see it from my window," Jake said. "What do we know about them?" "Nothing good, sir. They just appeared without warning. Our sensors didn't pick them up until they were already here. These ships are advanced, really advanced." Jake felt his old soldier instincts wake up. How advanced? Each one of those ships could destroy our entire defense fleet without breaking a sweat. We have 3 small patrol boats. They have 27 warships. The phone went quiet for a moment. Then Lisa spoke again, her voice tight with worry. "Sir, they're sending us a message. Put it through to my office." Jake's computer screen flickered. An alien face appeared. It looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird. Its eyes were cold and yellow. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "Primitive mammals of the 3rd planet. I am War Master Kelth Fox of the Zephyrian Empire. You will submit to our rule or we will destroy you. You have 1 day to decide." The screen went black. Jake stared at the empty screen for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and started making calls. "Ryan Baker here," came the voice of the chief engineer. "Ryan, get to my office now. Bring Amy Foster and Nick Palmer." "What's going on, Jake?" "We're about to find out if we're as soft as we look." 20 minutes later, Jake's office was full. Ryan Baker looked worried. His engineering mind was already working on the problem. Dr. Amy Foster sat quietly, but Jake could see the steel in her eyes. Nick Palmer, the security chief, stood by the window looking up at the alien ships. "Options?" Jake asked. Nick turned from the window. "We can't fight them. Not with what we have. 3 patrol boats against 27 warships? It would be suicide." "So we surrender?" Amy asked. "Maybe," Jake said. "But let's think about this. What do they want?" Ryan pulled up data on his tablet. "According to our first contact protocols, most aggressive species want one of 3 things: slaves, resources, or territory. They called us primitive mammals," Lisa said through the phone speaker. "That doesn't sound like they respect us much." Jake walked to his window and looked down at the street. People were starting to notice the ships. Some pointed up at the sky. Others hurried their children indoors. But nobody was panicking yet. Humans were good at staying calm in a crisis. "Nick, what do you know about the Zephyrian Empire? Never heard of them before today." But the name suggests they're not from around here. These might be our first real aliens. Amy leaned forward. Jake, you're thinking something. I can see it in your face. Jake turned back to his team. I'm thinking about something my grandfather told me once. He was in the army back on Earth. He said the most dangerous thing you can do in a fight is underestimate your enemy. These aliens have bigger ships and better weapons, Ryan said. How are they underestimating us? They gave us 1 day to surrender. They think we're primitive. They probably expect us to beg for mercy or try to fight them with what we have. Jake sat down at his desk. What if we do neither? Nick raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about why humans left Earth in the first place. We didn't leave because we were weak. We left because we wanted to build something better. But we didn't forget how to fight. Amy stood up. Jake, these people have families, children. If we fight and lose, everyone dies. If we surrender, everyone becomes a slave. Maybe that's better than death, but maybe it's not. Jake looked at each of them. I'm not making this decision alone, but I want you all to remember something. Humans didn't get to the top of the food chain on Earth by being nice. We got there by being too stubborn to quit. Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, What do you need from me? I need you to make our surrender look real. Load the colony. Ships like we're evacuating. Make it look like we're scared. And what will we really be doing? Nick asked. Jake smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. We're going to remind these Zephyrins why humans conquered a planet full of things it wanted to eat us. We're going to show them what happens when you anger a species that never learned how to give up. The alien ships hung in the sky like dark clouds. Below them, the humans of New Eden began to prepare. But they weren't preparing to surrender. They were preparing to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Outside, children still played in the streets. But their parents watched the sky with the same eyes their ancestors had used to watch for predators. The Zephyrins thought. They had found easy prey. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The second day began with death. Jake Morrison was eating breakfast when the explosion lit up the sky. Through his kitchen window, he watched the orbital mining station disappear in a ball of fire. 200 people worked on that station. Now, they were gone. His phone rang before the light from the explosion faded. Jake, they just destroyed Mining Station 7, Captain Lisa said. Her voice shook with anger. No warning. No demand. They just killed 200 people to make a point. Jake set down his coffee cup. His hands were steady, but something cold and hard was growing in his chest. Any survivors? A few escape pods made it out. Dr. Foster is treating them at the medical center. I'll be right there. Jake drove through streets filled with frightened people. They stood in groups, pointing at the burning wreckage falling from the sky. Some were crying. Others looked angry. But most just looked shocked. Humans weren't used to being attacked without reason. The medical center was chaos. Amy Foster moved between beds, treating burns and broken bones. Her husband Ryan Baker had been on the mining station when it exploded. Jake found her working on a man with severe burns on his arms. Amy, Jake said quietly. She looked up. Her eyes were red from crying, but her hands never stopped working. Ryan was in Section 4 when they hit us. Section 4 took a direct hit. Jake didn't know what to say. Ryan Baker had been his friend for 10 years. A good man who came to New Eden to build things, not destroy them. I'm sorry, Jake said. Amy finished bandaging the injured man's arms. Then she stood up and looked at Jake. Something had changed in her face. The gentle doctor was still there, but underneath was something harder. What are we going to do about this? She asked. Before Jake could answer, every screen in the medical center turned on. The alien face appeared again. War Master Fox looked even more cruel than before. Humans of New Eden. That was a demonstration of Zephyrian power. Your mining station and everyone on it is gone. This is what happens when primitive species do not obey. You have 18 hours to evacuate to the fourth planet. Anyone who remains will be destroyed. The screens went black. Amy stared at the empty screen. 18 hours to pack up 10 years of our lives. We're not packing, Jake said. What do you mean? I mean, we're going to make them think we're packing, but we're really going to get ready for war. Jake called an emergency meeting in the colony's main hall. 3,000 people showed up. Farmers, teachers, doctors, engineers, shop owners, and retirees. People who came to New Eden to live in peace. Jake stood on the stage and looked out at their faces. They were scared, but not broken. Good. He would need that strength. The aliens want us to leave our home, Jake said. They killed 200 of our friends to make sure we understand they're serious. They think we'll run away because we're scared. An old farmer named Joe Clark stood up. Maybe we should run, Jake. These aren't our kind of people. We're builders, not fighters. Joe's right, said Mary Phillips, who taught at the elementary school. We have children to think about. If we fight, we all die. Jake nodded. You're both right. We are builders. We did come here to live in peace. But let me ask you something. How did humans get to this planet in the first place? The crowd was quiet. We got here because our ancestors were too stubborn to quit. When the Ice Age came, they didn't give up. When predators hunted them, they didn't run away. They figured out how to make fire and tools and weapons. They turned the whole planet into their home because they refused to be victims. Kelly Woods, the school teacher, stood up. What are you saying, Jake? I'm saying we give them what they expect. We load the ships. We power down our defenses. We act scared. But while we're doing that, we get ready to show them why humans don't stay down when you knock them over. Nick Palmer stepped forward. Jake's right. I spent 15 years in Earth Special Forces. These aliens made a big mistake. They think we're weak because we choose to be peaceful. They don't understand that choosing not to fight is different from not knowing how to fight. Amy Foster wiped tears from her eyes and stood up. They killed my husband. They killed 200 good. People who never hurt anyone. If we run away, they win. If we stay and fight, we might die. But at least we die as humans, not as slaves. The crowd began to murmur. Jake could see the change happening. Fear was turning into anger. Shock was becoming determination. That an old woman named Betty Stone raised her hand. What do you need us to do? Jake smiled. I need you to be what you've always been. Teachers, farmers, doctors, engineers. But I also need you to remember that every human alive today is descended from people who survived when everything else wanted them dead. The next few hours were busy. On the surface, New Eden looked like a colony preparing to evacuate. Ships were loaded with supplies. People packed their belongings. The defense systems were shut down. But in secret, something else was happening. Nick Palmer moved through the colony, talking to people quietly. The retired soldiers, the hunters, the engineers who knew how to build things that exploded. Kelly Woods cleaned out her chemistry classroom, but not to pack it. She was gathering materials that could be turned into weapons. Dr. Tony Martinez, the veterinarian, studied pieces of alien technology that had fallen from the destroyed mining station. Amy Foster worked in her lab, but she wasn't treating patients anymore. She was learning everything she could about alien biology from tissue samples recovered from the wreckage. Jake Morrison stood in his office, watching the Zephyrian ships patrol overhead. They looked confident, proud. They had no idea what was coming. Outside his window, humans went about their business, loading ships, caring for children, helping neighbors. They looked defeated, broken. They weren't. The Zephyrians had made the oldest mistake in the book. They judged humans by their peaceful nature and forgot to ask why a species of peaceful builders had conquered an entire planet full of predators. Tomorrow, the occupation would begin. The Zephyrians would land on New Eden expecting to find broken slaves ready to serve. Instead, they would find out why humans are never to be angered. The Zephyrian ships landed on New Eden like metal birds of prey. Ground Commander Thexnall stepped out of the first transport, expecting to see crowds of defeated humans waiting to surrender. Instead, he found empty streets. The colony looked abandoned. Houses stood with their doors open. Shops were left unlocked. Children's toys lay scattered in playgrounds. But there were no humans anywhere. Thexnall had conquered 12 worlds for the Zephyrian Empire. He knew what surrender looked like. Species that gave up always gathered in large groups, begging for mercy. They brought their leaders forward to negotiate. They wept and pleaded and promised to serve. This was different. This was silence. "Commander," said one of his soldiers, "the humans appear to have evacuated as ordered." Thexnall studied the empty streets. Something felt wrong. In his experience, primitive species were never disorganized. They panicked. They ran in different directions. They left chaos behind. New Eden looked like its people had simply vanished. "Begin the occupation," Thexnall ordered. "Set up command posts in the government buildings. Establish patrols throughout the colony. Something about this feels strange." 3 days, the Zephyrians settled into their new territory. They set up communication arrays, established supply depots, and began cataloging human technology. Everything seemed normal. Then the attacks began. The first patrol to disappear was a routine group of 4 soldiers checking the farming district. They reported in at noon, saying all was quiet. They never reported again. When a search team found them 6 hours later, their equipment was gone, and their bodies were arranged in a way that sent a clear message. The humans were still here. Kelly Woods watched the search team through binoculars from a hidden position in the grain storage facility. She had been a high school chemistry teacher for 15 years. Now she was learning a different kind of lesson. The explosive device she had planted under the patrol route had worked perfectly. Fertilizer and fuel oil, mixed in the right proportions, created a blast that could disable alien armor. It was basic chemistry, the kind she taught to teenagers. "Target eliminated," she whispered into her radio, moving to secondary position. 2 miles away, Dr. Tony Martinez was conducting his own experiment. He had spent 3 days studying the alien technology recovered from the mining station attack. The Zephyrian energy shields were impressive, but they had a weakness. The shields were designed to stop advanced energy weapons and high-tech projectiles. They were calibrated to defend against the kind of weapons the Zephyrians expected their enemies to use. They were not designed to stop a simple steel arrow fired from a hunting bow. Tony notched another arrow and aimed at the Zephyrian soldier, patrolling the communications array. The arrow punched through the alien's energy shield like it wasn't there and struck him in the chest. The soldier fell without making a sound. "Primitive weapons work," Tony reported on his radio. "The shields can't adapt to something this simple." Jake Morrison received both reports from his hidden command post in the old mine tunnels. The Zephyrians controlled the surface, but humans had built an entire network of caves and tunnels during their 10 years on New Eden. The aliens didn't even know it existed. "Good work, both of you," Jake said into his radio. "Remember, we're not trying to win battles. We're trying to make them uncomfortable." This was a lesson Jake had learned during his military service on Earth. Sometimes the goal wasn't to destroy your enemy. Sometimes it was to make them wish they had never started the fight. the attacks continued. Supply convoys found their routes, blocked by fallen trees and disabled vehicles. Communication towers suffered mysterious power failures. Guard posts discovered their equipment had been sabotaged during shift changes. The Zephyrians began to lose soldiers. Not in big battles, but one or two at a time. A sniper's bullet from an impossible distance. A booby trap in an abandoned building. A patrol that walked into an ambush and never walked out. Commander Thexnall studied the reports in his temporary headquarters. In 3 days, he had lost 18 soldiers and countless pieces of equipment. He still had no idea where the humans were hiding or how many of them remained on the planet. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we're having trouble maintaining contact with our patrols. Someone is jamming our frequencies." "Impossible. These humans don't have that technology." "With respect, sir, they're doing it anyway." Ben Clark smiled as he monitored the Zephyrian communications from his hidden position in the old water treatment plant. At 23, he was the youngest member of Jake's resistance team. He had been a computer programmer before the invasion. Now he was learning that the same skills that helped him debug software could be used to disrupt alien technology. The Zephyrians used advanced quantum encryption for their communications. It should have been impossible to break with human technology. But Ben had discovered something interesting about alien psychology. Advanced species always assumed their enemies would use advanced methods to attack them. They never prepared for someone to use brute force trial and error combined with random number generation. Ben's computers were trying millions of password combinations every second, using methods that were older than space travel. "Their security is like a bank vault with a screen door next to it," Ben reported to Jake. "They've got incredible protection against high-tech attacks, but they never thought someone might just try every possible combination until something worked." The psychological effect on the Zephyrians was exactly what Jake had hoped for. They were used to quick victories against species that fought conventional battles. They weren't prepared for an enemy that refused to show themselves, refused to fight fair, and refused to give up. Amy Foster monitored Zephyrian communications from the medical facility she had established in the old mining tunnels. Her husband was dead, but her work was just beginning. She had been studying alien tissue samples and blood specimens for days. "Jake," she called on the radio, "I think I've found something important." "What is it?" "Their biology is more fragile than it looks. There's a compound I can synthesize that won't kill them, but it will make them very, very sick. Sick enough that they can't fight." Jake thought about this. "How would we deliver it?" "Their water supply. They're using our old purification systems. I can introduce the compound there. Do it." As the sun set on New Eden, Commander Thexnall stood at his headquarters window, looking out at the empty streets. His forces controlled every building, every road, every strategic point on the planet. But he was beginning to understand that controlling territory meant nothing if your enemy refused to be controlled. Somewhere in the darkness, humans were watching, planning, preparing their next move. The Zephyrians had come to New Eden expecting to conquer primitive mammals. Instead, they had stumbled into a war against a species that had spent millions of years learning how to survive when everything else wanted them dead. They were about to discover that humans were very, very good at that particular skill. War Master Kelthvox stood in his command center, staring at the reports from New Eden. In 1 week, he had lost 43 soldiers. His supply lines were constantly under attack. His communications were being jammed by primitive technology. That shouldn't even work. This was not how conquests were supposed to go. "Ground Commander Thexnall is requesting more troops," his aide reported. "He says the humans are using guerrilla tactics that his forces are not trained to handle." Kelthvox crushed the report in his clawed hand. "Guerrilla tactics? These are farmers and shopkeepers. How are they defeating trained Zephyrian soldiers? Sir, perhaps we should consider withdrawing and finding an easier target. The War Master's eyes flashed with anger. The Zephyrian Empire does not retreat from primitive mammals. If these humans want to play games, we will teach them the price of defying us. He activated the communication system. Ground Commander, you are authorized to begin reprisal operations. For every soldier we lose, execute 10 human prisoners. For every supply convoy attacked, destroy one of their settlements. Show them what happens when they anger the Zephyrian Empire. On New Eden, Commander Thexnaw received the order with satisfaction. He had been fighting shadows for a week. Now he could fight back in a way the humans would understand. His soldiers rounded up 30 civilians who had been hiding in the residential district. Men, women, and elderly people who had been too slow to escape when the occupation began. They were brought to the colony's main square. Attention hidden humans. Thexnaw broadcast on all frequencies. Your attacks on our forces will not be tolerated. For every Zephyrian soldier killed, we will execute 10 of your people. Here is your first lesson. The executions were broadcast throughout the colony. Jake Morrison watched from his hidden command post, his hands clenched into fists. Around him, his team watched in silent rage as innocent people died for their resistance efforts. Jake, Nick Palmer said quietly, they're trying to make us angry. Make us do something stupid. I know, Jake replied. His voice was calm, but something cold and final had settled in his eyes. They just made their last mistake. Kelly Woods turned away from the screen, tears streaming down her face. She had taught some of those people's children. We can't let this continue. We won't, Jake said. But not the way they expect. Amy, how is your biological weapon coming along? Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her workstation. It's ready. I can deploy it through their water system within hours. It won't kill them, but they'll be too sick to fight for at least a week. Ben, what about their ship systems? The young programmer cracked his knuckles. I've been working on something special. Their entire fleet network runs on interconnected systems. If I can get access to just one ship, I can spread a virus through their whole fleet. How do we get you onto a ship? Captain Lisa Hayes stepped forward. I can do it. We captured one of their shuttles yesterday. I can fly it up to the command ship. Jake studied his team. These were teachers, doctors, engineers, and farmers. None of them were professional soldiers, but all of them had something the Zephyrians had never encountered before. They had human stubbornness backed by human intelligence. This is a suicide mission, Jake said. Once we start this, there's no going back. They'll throw everything they have at us. Good, Amy said, her voice hard with grief and anger. I want them to know exactly who they're fighting. The plan was simple in the way that the most dangerous plans always are. Amy would infiltrate the command ship and deploy her biological weapon. Ben would hack their computer systems and turn their own weapons against them. Lisa would get them both there and back. Meanwhile, on the surface, Jake and the others would launch every attack they had been saving. The goal wasn't to win a conventional battle. The goal was to show the galaxy what happened when humans stopped. Trying to be reasonable, the attack began at midnight. Amy Foster sat in the captured Zephyrian shuttle, wearing stolen alien armor. Her medical bag contained vials of biological compound designed specifically for Zephyrian physiology. It had taken her a week to perfect the formula, working with tissue samples from dead aliens. Remember, she told herself, Ryan would want me to come home. But first, these monsters need to learn what they've awakened. Lisa Hayes piloted the shuttle toward the command ship. The stolen Zephyrian identification codes worked perfectly. To the ship's sensors, they were just another patrol returning from the surface. Docking Bay 7 is open, Lisa reported. We're going in. Ben Clark sat in the shuttle's passenger compartment, his portable computer connected to the shuttle's systems. Already, he was probing the command ship's network, looking for weaknesses. Their security is incredible, he muttered. But they designed it to stop other advanced civilizations. They never thought someone would try to hack them with code that's basically held together with digital duct tape. On the surface, Jake Morrison gave the signal for the general uprising. Across New Eden, humans emerged from their hiding places. Not to surrender, not to negotiate, but to fight with everything they had. Kelly Woods detonated explosives under the main Zephyrian supply depot. The blast lit up the night sky and could be seen from orbit. Dr. Tony Martinez led a team of hunters in attacking the alien communications center with arrows and homemade spears that their advanced shields couldn't stop, the Zephyrians had expected. Desperate, disorganized attacks from a broken species. Instead, they faced coordinated strikes from people who had spent a week studying their weaknesses and preparing surprises. But the real surprise was happening aboard the command ship. Amy Foster moved through the alien vessel's corridors, her stolen armor hiding her human form. She found the ship's water recycling system and began adding her biological compound to the supply. "Compound deployed," she whispered into her radio. "Every Zephyrian on this ship will be sick within the hour." Meanwhile, Ben Clark had found what he was looking for. The command ship's computer core was connected to every other ship in the fleet. One virus, properly designed, could spread to the entire armada. "Jake, I'm in their system," Ben reported. "Give me 5 more minutes, and I can turn their own weapons against them." But War Master Kelth Vox was not stupid. The sudden coordinated attacks on the surface, combined with the suspicious shuttle docking, had triggered his suspicions. "Security teams to Docking Bay 7, he ordered. "Scan that shuttle. Something is wrong." The humans aboard the command ship heard the alarm begin to sound. They were out of time. "Ben, whatever you're going to do it now," Lisa said. Ben's fingers flew over his keyboard. The virus he uploaded was simple, crude, and completely effective. It did one thing. It made every Zephyrian ship's targeting system identify other Zephyrian ships as enemy targets. Throughout the fleet, weapon systems began locking onto their own vessels. The advanced aliens watched in horror as their most sophisticated technology turned against them. Amy Foster felt the biological weapon beginning to work as Zephyrian crew members started collapsing in the corridors around her. But security teams were closing in on their position. "We need to go," Lisa said. "Now." The 3 humans ran for their shuttle as alarms screamed throughout the ship. Behind them, the command crew was falling victim to Amy's biological weapon. Around them, the ship's own weapons were powering up to fire on their sister vessels. Barely made it to the shuttle before the first Zephyrian ship opened fire on another. The fleet that had come to conquer New Eden began destroying itself, victim to human ingenuity and the kind of brutal creativity that only came from a species that had learned to survive by being more clever than their enemies. As their shuttle raced away from the chaos, Jake Morrison's voice came over the radio from the surface. "Phase 1 complete. Now let's show them what humans do when we stop being polite." The Zephyrian fleet tore itself apart in the darkness above New Eden. War Master Kelth Vox watched in horror as his own ships fired on each other. The targeting systems that had conquered 17 worlds now saw every Zephyrian vessel as an enemy. Weapons that had destroyed entire civilizations turned on their creators. "Shut down all weapon systems," he ordered, but his crew was collapsing around him. The biological agent the human female had introduced was spreading through the ship's air supply. His soldiers fell to their knees, too sick to stand, too weak to fight. On the surface of New Eden, Jake Morrison stood in the colony's main square and watched the alien ships destroy each other. Explosions lit up the night sky like deadly fireworks. Pieces of Zephyrian technology rained down on the planet they had tried to conquer. "Ben, can you hear me?" Jake spoke into his radio. "I'm here," came the young programmer's voice. "The virus is working better than I hoped. Their ships can't tell friend from enemy anymore. How long until they figure out how to stop it? They can't stop it without shutting down their entire fleet network. And if they do that, they'll be helpless anyway." Jake nodded and activated the colony's main communication system. Every Zephyrian ship, every alien communication array, every frequency they used would receive his message. "This is Jake Morrison, speaking for the humans of New Eden. War Master Kelth Fox, you came to our world thinking we were weak. You saw farmers and teachers and thought we would be easy to conquer. You were wrong." His voice echoed across the battlefield. As Zephyrian ships continued to fire on each other in the sky above, "You killed our people to show us your power. You executed innocent civilians to make us afraid. You tried to break our spirit by showing us how helpless we were against your advanced technology. But you made one critical mistake. You forgot to ask why a species of peaceful builders managed to conquer an entire planet full of predators." Amy Foster listened to Jake's speech from the medical center where she was treating the last of the human wounded. Her biological weapon had worked perfectly. Every Zephyrian soldier on the planet was too sick to fight. Some would recover in a few days, but by then it would be too late. "We didn't conquer Earth because we were the strongest or the fastest or had the biggest teeth," Jake continued. "We conquered it because we never learned how to give up. When the Ice Age came, we made fire. When predators hunted us, we made tools. When the world tried to kill us, we made it our home instead." Captain Lisa Hayes brought her shuttle down in the colony square. She, Amy, and Ben climbed out to join Jake as he delivered his message to the galaxy. Around them, the few remaining Zephyrian ground forces were surrendering. Without support from their fleet and weakened by Amy's biological weapon, they had no choice. "You thought our peaceful nature made us weak," Jake said. "You thought our desire to build instead of destroy meant we didn't know how to fight. You thought wrong. We offered you friendship, and you chose war. We showed you mercy, and you chose cruelty. We tried to negotiate, and you chose genocide." Above them, the last Zephyrian ships were going silent. Some had been destroyed by their own weapons. Others had shut down their systems to stop the virus, leaving them helpless in space. A few were trying to flee, but Ben's virus had infected their navigation systems too. "Now you know the truth about humans," Jake continued. "We are builders. We are explorers. We are farmers and teachers and doctors and engineers. But we are also the children of survivors. We carry the genes of every human who refused to die when the world wanted them dead. And when you threaten our families, our homes, our future, you wake up something that has been sleeping for a very long time." Kelly Woods stood with a group of colonists in the square, watching pieces of alien ships fall from the sky. She had been a chemistry teacher a week ago. Now she was something else, something harder, something that the Zephyrians had created by pushing peaceful people too far. "This message is not just for you, War Master," Jake said. "This is for every species in your empire, every civilization that might think humans are easy targets because we prefer to build rather than destroy. Learn from the Zephyrians' mistake. We will trade with you. We will explore with you. We will share knowledge and friendship and help you build a better galaxy." Dr. Tony Martinez watched through his binoculars as the last Zephyrian ground forces laid down their weapons. The veterinarian who had discovered how to defeat their shields with primitive arrows smiled grimly. "Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. But if you come to our worlds with conquest in mind, if you threaten our children, if you try to make us slaves, Then you will discover what the Zephyrians learned tonight. You will learn why humans are never to be angered. War Master Kelfvox crawled to his communication console, his body racked with sickness from the human biological weapon. With trembling claws, he managed to activate an emergency signal. All Zephyrian forces retreat from human space immediately. Spread the word throughout the Empire. These creatures are not what they appear to be. They are predators disguised as prey. Mark their worlds as forbiddens. Never return here. Jake's voice continued to broadcast across the galaxy as the surviving Zephyrian ships limped away from New Eden. We are humans. We crossed an ocean of space to build a new home, not because it was easy, but because we refused to accept that. Anything was impossible. We turned a hostile planet into a garden because we are too stubborn to quit. And if you force us to fight, you will discover that the same determination that carried us from caves to the stars will not hesitate to send you back to whatever darkness you came from. Years passed. The story of New Eden spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had never heard of humans learned a new phrase: never anger the builders. The Zephyrian Empire, once proud conquerors of 17 worlds, became a cautionary tale whispered in the dark corners of Spacedot when new alien civilizations encountered human colonies. They always asked the same question: is it true what they say about your species? That you should never be angered? Jake Morrison, now an old man with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes, always gave the same answer as he watched his grandchildren play in the rebuilt colony. We prefer to build rather than destroy, to create rather than conquer, to explore rather than expand through violence. But if you threaten our families, our homes, our future, then yes, you will discover exactly why our ancestors climbed to the top of the food chain on a world that spent millions of years trying to kill them. New Eden prospered. The colonies grew. Human ships explored new worlds and made new friends among the new stars. And somewhere in the deep archives of 100 civilizations, Jake Morrison's warning played on endless repeat, a reminder that the most dangerous hunters are often those who choose not to hunt. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was left in peace to build, to grow, to reach for distant stars, just the way they always preferred it.